People who are being tried for public nuisance, a serious criminal offence, are being told they cannot tell the jury that their motivation for taking upon themselves serious personal risk was the protection of life on earth.
Being silenced on the motivation for their actions, being silenced on what might demonstrate credibility, what might be relevant to the evidence on the individual facts of each case, is, in a lot of people's views, a breach of the right to a fair trial.
What's the point of a jury if we don't trust them with the evidence, if we're going to usurp their role? What does a right to a fair trial mean if you can't speak and explain why you did what you did? What does freedom of expression mean if you're gagged with a threat of prison just for explaining yourself?
When juries and ordinary people and magistrates hear why these actions have happened, they are in general sympathetic, and juries are trying their best to balance the fact that our governments are not doing enough, the elites are not doing enough, the fossil fuel industries are not doing enough.
Over the last few years, more and more juries, when they're told by defendants about the seriousness of the climate crisis and why that led that person to do the actions they did, they've been acquitting. And I think the judiciary has begun to become frightened that too many juries are going to acquit climate protesters. And so to stop juries coming up with the wrong answer, they are stopping them even asking the question.
The judge is telling them they are in contempt of court for disobeying his edict, and he's sentenced one person to prison, Dave Nixon, a care worker, a wonderful, gentle person, and today we believe he's going to do the same thing to 2 more people.
The judges who are giving this inconsistent and I think completely wrong, frankly, direction to juries and deeply, in denial about what is happening to democracy and the rule of law, I hope that they will listen to what is really needed at this time.
It is not a coincidence that when juries do hear the evidence of climate breakdown and the government's inertia, they're acquitting over and over again.
The evidence has been in plain sight since 1991 when the first IPCC report came out and the second report came out leading to the Climate Change Convention in 1992. It's the evidence that's been continually ignored and shunted aside by those in power.
I know from Sir David King, former government's chief scientific advisor, he was going to go public before the Paris Agreement with his risk assessment and was blocked from doing it by a special advisor at 10 Downing Street who was nervous of alienating the Murdoch press.
And sadly, the people who are telling the truth about that are now the ones who are bearing, the cost of their own liberties.
The novelist Franz Kafka wrote a visionary story over a century ago about an ordinary person arrested and tried for unspecified crimes, unable to make sense of the process in which he's ensnared. And just as in Kafka's The Trial, it is possible to say of the dystopian case that's facing our climate defenders here, it is an essential part of the justice dispensed here that you should be condemned, not only in innocence, but also in ignorance.
And that is the effect of Judge Reid's ruling, that you can't even mention climate change or the reason for your protest, because I think he knows that if juries heard about that, they would acquit, when what Judge Reid wants is guilty verdicts.
A fundamental right to defend yourself, even if in law the defence may be hard to make out, is still a fundamental right. And being silenced on that at a time when protest rights are already under threat is a real dangerous route to go down.
The beauty of the juror's absolute right to acquit is we don't need to wait for judges to tell us that we're allowed to do it. Every single juror can do it right now. And remember, if you're in a climate protest case, judges like Judge Reid might be forbidding the defendant from even telling you their motivations. So remember, even if you're not being addressed on it, the law says you have an absolute right to acquit on your conscience as a juror.
If justice is not understood and it's just for show, to appease some sort of authoritarian political appetite, then that is not a trial. That is a show trial.